kind of circle back a bit to when you said that you were taught someone how to have a more explosive orgasm where they were actually squirting and they weren't able to orgasm in the past. That's very fascinating. How did we get there?
For a friend.
I mean, that's like a person saying, I know where gold is at. I'm like, where's the gold? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did you do that? That's amazing.
Causing a gold rush. So I think there's a variety of things that have gone into it, right? So one is, for this particular client, she had some trauma. So we had to work on the sort of thinking about the trauma, transforming the trauma, sort of being more empowered in her own body and her own desires. And then having her partner also help her, with that. And then also her own exploration of herself. So, masturbation is great. But the vulva mapping or pleasure mapping of your genitals is also great because you see, I actually like it when I press down over here, or this feels nice, or even thinking about oral sex. Like some of us like stimulation this way, some of us like suction, some of us like, so you have to really think about what are the things that are needed for me to have orgasms that feel good. So after the psychological barriers, I teach really also about breath work and erotic breath work. And I think breath work is so important. It really grounds us and it helps us to be mindful in our orgasms. But it also helps us to relax those muscles to help us have really explosive orgasms. I just did a piece on, I contributed to an article about how to orgasm fast. And, for women in particular, folks with vulvas and vaginas, right? Because, it's something like, it takes me so long and I don't want to, it deters people, right? Like, it takes me so long. Well, there's certain tactics you can do to help speed up the process. So in addition, I helped her think about what kind of toys, might be helpful. After the vulva mapping, what kind of toys might be helpful, the breath work. But then also getting to know where her spot is, and then also doing Kegel exercises or pelvic floor exercises. So if you go to a pelvic floor therapist or even just doing Kegels or other pelvic floor exercises, you can just Google them or YouTube them. Those can really help you understand your muscle contractions when you're orgasming. So with those muscle contractions, especially around the pelvic floor, what it does, that G-spot, right, that spongy tissue, those muscles, they're pulsing, and when you get to orgasm, what it does is squeeze that prostate, that fluid, that's basically water from the body, fluid goes up into the bladder and then shoots out the urethra. So that is, the ejaculation or squirting.
That makes sense why now the therapy makes sense, because if that's weak, then it makes it harder.
Exactly.
Okay. Exactly. I understand.
Yeah. So any woman is capable of squirting?
Every single person is capable of squirting, whether they're male or female.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Right? So wait, what? So because our bodies are very similar, maybe the genitals might not be exact and everybody's genitals are different. The internal organs are mostly the same unless you are maybe intersex. So if you are, just as the female prostate, or what a lot of people like to call the G-spot, but the female prostate with that spongy tissue, same thing, P-spot, right? The male prostate, same thing. So I was able to view this guy who was this was mind-blowing for me, because they didn't teach this in school, right? He was like, no, I can squirt too. And we were like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, I can squirt. What? And he showed us, and he had...
on the spot?
No, not on the spot. He was like, we were at a conference, and he was like, I will show you and later on, right?
Okay.
And so he did some stimulation of his P-spot, and basically he squirted, and it was water. It was like the water that we ejaculate.
It wasn't urine.
It wasn't, no, there's, when you ejaculate, when women ejaculate or when folks with vulvas and vaginas ejaculate, ejaculate, there is a little bit of urine because it's coming out of the urethra. But it mostly is what we call the skin glands or the female prostate, that fluid, along with water in the body. So
But
it's
not
water.
semen.
Huh?
But not semen.
But not semen. So with there, if there's semen left over, like in the pipes kind of thing, there might be. But basically, that fluid is water from the body, and that goes up into the bladder, and that shoots out. Same
that
thing.
is fascinating.
Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me? I was completely, because they didn't teach us that in school.
And what's the range?
You know? Well, that's also fascinating, right? Because it's also dependent upon sort of your body.
Yeah.
The things that I've seen, I saw this woman at Hedonism in Jamaica. I saw this German woman.
Wow, that name.
At Hedonism, the resort, right? So it's like a sex-friendly resort, clothing optional. She squirted, I had to say, like 12 feet high. I was like, what? What? Like, what? It was so fascinating. And when I was in Toronto, I just had taught at a sex club, and I was talking to one of the owners of the club, and this woman, she's on the table, and then there's another woman that was like next to her, kind of like playing with her, and she was like, "You might want to scoot to the side." And I was like, "Okay." I was scooted to the side, and all of a sudden you hear like, "Ah!" And like she shoots like 8 feet, and I was just like, "What?" So I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I'm like talking to the owner again, and all of a sudden I hear, ah, and she does it again.
Oh my God.
Right. And then she does it a third time. So I was like, nobody cannot tell me that's not water from the body. Because number one, you don't have that much pee.
No.
Pee that doesn't exist like that. But water from the body, we do have lots of water in our body.
She was dehydrated.
She was. She was definitely dehydrated. But I was like, wow. I mean, at 8 feet each time. And I was like,
wow.
I was just like.
How does that make you feel as a man?
Let's talk about these techniques. I'm sure everybody would like to know.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I've seen some amazing things that people can do with their bodies, and I feel lucky that people are like, let me show you, you know, or I just happen to be in the room, you know.
They just go, like Olympics and shit. Like, look how far I can go. Okay.
Yeah.
What did the guy do? That's like noticeably different from just jerking off.
He was just using his finger to stimulate his prostate. So similar to like what people call sort of milking the prostate and having, you know, the semen, you know, kind of constantly come out. It's very similar to those actions, but I think it's just a different way of stimulation.
In layman's terms, he had his finger in his asshole.
Yeah.
While he was jerking off. Or just asshole.
Yeah, I think it's just asshole. Yeah.
So he was just straight, just touching his asshole, and then just
and
then it was just
water. Yeah.
That is incredible.
You know,
So
I feel
gay
like
guys squirt while they're having sex?
You said what?
I didn't know gay guys would squirt while they were having sex.
Well, I don't know. So I think this is like one of the things like this person's maybe body he's helped or trained to do. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's a very common thing,
right, okay.
Because I don't think a lot of people really know about it. Like people kind of know sort of milking, and I think it is sort of maybe an aspect of milking, but no, this was straight up like water. It was not semen. You know what I mean? It wasn't seminal fluid.
Milking?
Milking the prostate is where you're doing prostate stimulation, but it's more semen coming out. So it's not like a full sort of ejaculation, but it's just sort of let's just call it milking the prostate.
So my vision is it's just dripping.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just finger an asshole.
Or two, or butt
I mean,
plug,
but there's
or
women,
toy.
there's guys that like that if you're having sex with them for you to like while you're having sex.
Oh yeah.
So I'm assuming it's for that reason. So that
absolutely. I hooked up with this guy at Hedonism, And I put my finger up his butt because I was like, I'm going to just put my finger up his butt. And I did that, and he was just like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I've never experienced anything like that before.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, he was like waiting for me at breakfast time. He's laughing. So, I'm like, if you don't know, you don't know, but you got to try, you know what I mean? And yeah.
Okay. All right then.
You're like, I gotta try. Made me attempt.
So when you go to these events, is it for research purposes?
I mean, always. Fun and research. People are always like, so is this a work trip or a fun trip? And I was like, it's always both. Like, it's always both.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So men squirt when anal stimulation, and women squirt with specifically inside
Vaginal stimulation. Well, women
from the G spot.
Yes and no. They can also squirt from external stimulation, so clitoral stimulation. If their pelvic floor is strong enough, it doesn't matter. If your pelvic floor is strong enough and it squeezes, it's gonna squeeze the prostate. So.
Is there like just like in simple terms, like for a woman, like, because Kegel exercises is basically just squeezing your ass, and like for a man between that spot between your balls and ass, right?
Yeah,
for a certain amount of time,
right.
Is there like a baseline you tell a woman, hey, if you can hold this for like 2 minutes, you should be able to squirt, like, you know what I mean?
Oh, no. I don't think everybody's body is different. So I think it's more about practice and getting to know your body. So I usually encourage people like to do a quick, like if you don't have like general anxiety, like if you're not a very anxious person or whatever, I usually recommend like do a good like 10 squeezes a day. You're good to go. You're good. But that's just that it really helps your vaginal muscles too, because as we age, they start to they might start to, oh my gosh, the words, not only atrophy, but some people can also, they start to prolapse. So, so it's sort of like if you don't use it, you lose it. You know what I mean? And so I usually encourage people to just do daily maintenance if you're not a generally anxious person. If you're a generally anxious person, I tell you, relax, because then your pelvic floor might be too tight. And when it's too tight, then that can stir up pelvic floor problems for you.
Okay.
That's funny. My grandmother gave me that advice.
Oh, yeah?
She told me that it stops working, girl.
Yeah,
you need to keep that shit alive. Yes, it stops working. And I'm like, damn, grandma. She's like, I'm telling you. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keep it alive. Yep. And I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of like, because we met at the fetish workshop, right? In terms of tools that you find help men or women get squirting type orgasms, what's the most common?
Some of the most common tools I like to use are like stainless steel tools. So there are some companies out there that have some really great stainless steel tools, and you can just use those for pressure. So some are like kind of curved, some kind of have a little curve, some have divots, some are nice and heavy, like 11 pounds, that have like different stimulation points. But I really encourage those kind of toys because they're non-porous. And they're easy to clean, and you can warm them up, and they really kind of help facilitate that stimulation. Yeah.
But do you ever prescribe tools directly on genitalia?
Like, do I tell people? Like, what do you mean? Like, do I tell, or do I help, or do I like
I
stimulate?
can't imagine the freaking little needle tool that we use.
Oh yeah.
On my, you know what I mean? Like, whoa.
But I'm sure there's people that some people must like stuff like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely, absolutely. Like a neurological pinwheel, that's something that people might like. So it really just depends. Like if I'm doing, typically if I'm doing something fun and kinky or doing a tasting or something like that, those are kind of, those are more maybe surface level. Like if I'm going to be like touching someone's genitals or something along those lines, we probably have a deeper relationship. I have a deeper coaching relationship or some kind of things for the client. But if they want it purely for sexual satisfaction, most likely I would prescribe them to go see a pro-dom, like a pro-dominatrix or a pro-dominant, so that they can sort of get their fix around. Because yes, I'm here to help you be stimulated, but like the energy exchange is not the same, if that makes sense. Because so I really, if people want that kind of erotic energy exchange, I tell them to go probably to someone else.
So like it's fascinating, right? Like how much of it is it technique versus energy, right? Because like you can have like for example, toxic relationships generally tend to be the most passionate, whatever. Doesn't mean it was the best sex, but they do mean it was the most passionate, right? How much of it is a technique versus that?
Ooh. Well, sex is in our brain. Our brain is our biggest sex organ. So whatever we are feeling in our heads, that is what we are going to feel in our bodies. So I think that is probably one of the most important aspects of sort of the brain-body connection. And when thinking about sex, we also have a lot of people experience responsive desire as opposed to spontaneous desire. And so when thinking about responsive desire, that means I need to touch somebody or somebody needs to be touched in order for them to be aroused. So sometimes it's behavior that is sort of the core central thing. So in passionate, maybe even toxic relationships, where people are just like, have like the adrenaline, the endorphin, those are also like happy hormones that they're pumping out. So with all the flooding of the happy hormones, that's probably why their bodies feel like, why the sex is kind of so gripping. But it's I would definitely say it's the brain. It's the brain first. So it's mentally. It's always probably going to be mental.
Fair enough. Okay. And what advice do you generally tell men on how to stimulate their woman?
When thinking about like husbands stimulating wives, or like men who are dating and want to like hook up with women, I I tell them they have to pay attention to a few things. One is their seduction learning style. So thinking about how a person gets seduced is important. Is it visual? Is it auditory? Is it kinesthetic or tactile? Connecting to that person and using your own sexual assets is going to be your number one in. I had I know this, you said men and whatnot, but I had a wife who had been married to her husband for 40 years, and she was like, my husband doesn't listen to me, my husband doesn't listen to me. And I was like, I think I know what you need to do. I was like, go up to your husband. I want you to touch him on his arm, and I want you to look directly in his eyes and say what you want to say. And she did that, and she's like, oh my God, he finally listened to me after 40 years, all because of a touch. And I was like, because I believe he's tactile. And if someone's tactile, they're not going to fucking pay attention to you until you make a tactile connection with them. And you can scream and yell all you want, it's not going to get through. And so the same thing. So I had a guy who wanted to date women, and he was trying to figure out like why couldn't he get on dates? What was happening? And I basically was like, he went up to a woman at a coffee shop, and he saw that she was reading a book that he really liked and was like, oh my gosh, maybe she's into the same things I am, right? And he goes up to her and is like, oh, I love, that you're reading this book. Do you like the book? And she just starts talking and talking. Well, he couldn't wait to talk. So he understood himself as auditory, but he failed to realize that the woman was also auditory. Number one, two auditory people is going to be hard for a relationship because they both like to talk. So he interrupted her while she was talking and then proceeded to talk about himself. And then she became disinterested, right? And so you have to understand, and I was like, oh, well, she was auditory. She was probably waiting for more questions that would have whatever she was talking about, and she didn't ask you about you. So really paying attention to the seduction learning styles is important. And we talk about that, Dr. Jess and I, in our book, The Ultimate Guide to Seduction and Foreplay. So in our book, we kind of go through all of those things. And she also talks about core erotic feelings and elevated erotic feelings and how you want to feel during sex and what that means. So understanding your core erotic feelings, but understanding your lover's core erotic feelings. How do they want to feel during sex? And then how can you elevate that experience? That is sort of key pieces to understanding how you're going to make the best sex that you can out of the situation. So that's number one. So understanding the sexual seduction learning styles, and then definitely understanding their core erotic feeling and elevated erotic feeling. And then really thinking about the techniques that you're doing. Because sometimes lots of men think, oh, if I do this technique, it's going to work on everybody. And that's not the case. So really listening, understanding what your lover wants, how they want it, communicating with them, that is really going to help ahead of time.
And don't stop what you're doing if she's telling you that she's about to come.
Yeah, right.
That's like such an easy thing. I feel like guys mess that up constantly.
Yes.
Because now they feel like they got to do like a trick. It's like, no trick. I'm telling you
Stay there.
right there. I'm telling you, yes, it's working. No tricks. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, that's some advice.
Yes.
Like, if you're doing something and she's telling you it's working, listen to her.
Yes. And then for oral sex, I tell men, there needs to be a step ladder. Like for women, there's a ladder to the orgasm. So, do one move, do that for a while, then switch it up to another move. That's going to help with the ladder. Then switch it up to either that last move or maybe a different move, but you're going to go, you're stepping up and you're doing that different move. And when she says stay there because that's the point where she's getting to the point of no return for the orgasm.
Is it true? What's this thing I heard? Do the ABCs?
Please don't. Please don't. Because the ABCs are inconsistent. And what you need is consistency. So what I call consistent inconsistency, meaning that you need 2 to 3 moves that you need to do consistently for a period of time. ABCs is too inconsistent. You're going A, and then you're doing B, and then you're doing C, and then you're doing, those are it's 2 different moves. And for a person who needs like constant stimulation sort of in the same way to get on track with their body, it's not helpful. And it's boring. It can be boring. And even say you only know one move and you're doing that one move the whole entire time, guess what? Like she's going to go numb. So don't do that. You need to move it to a different kind of move in order to escalate.
There's not that many moves. There's up and down, side to side.
There's so many moves.
Circling.
I teach like 5.
That was actually my next question. Like, how can a person learn how to eat vagina properly?
Yeah.
Like, is there like a video? You know what I mean? Like, what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely videos out there. I teach a class on oral sex skills. I love to go to like swingers conferences because I actually do those in person. So I'm like helping people like in real life, like
real time.
In real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And those are fabulous because I'm like, okay, this is what you do next. Okay, this is what you do next.
And
right?
they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
She's like high-fiving her.
It's so good. One time, this woman was like, "Can you just keep talking? Your voice is amazing. Like, I just need your voice and like
That is super
what he's
erotic.
doing."
Yeah. For sure. Wow.
Yeah, because I'm just like, keep going, like. But yeah,
How,
there's
do
lots
you
of
feel
people, lots of
powerful
different
in those
educators.
moments? Do you feel power in those moments?
That's a great question. I would say yes. I do feel powerful because I do have the knowledge to help people escalate their sexual experience. So yes, I do feel powerful.
Do you enjoy feeling powerful in a sexual environment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Are you a dominant? Would you consider yourself?
I would definitely consider myself like a professional, like top or dominant, and more of like maybe a private bottom. So I would probably bottom for someone if I felt they could do a good job being a top.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does one know? Okay.
Gotta fuck around and find out. I don't know.
Fair enough.
I mean, I know.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Dungeons and Dragons of the sex. Right? all the stuff that we know it's considered taboo. People are now more into it. People want to explore. How does a person even introduce themselves into that type of a setting to know whether or not this is my jam or it is not? You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, what does a person do?
Yeah, so I think one of the first steps is really kind of getting on maybe some social media sites or social networking sites to see if there's something that they're interested in. There's a really popular kink site called FetLife. And, maybe creating a profile, seeing, sometimes there's maybe extreme players, but, just seeing like what people are into and see if there's something. But I think it's really helpful to see if there's munches in your city. So with munches, these are casual lunch or dinner experiences with kinky folks who are, in their regular clothing or, muggle clothing. So you would go there, most likely they might have like an educational piece, but it's sort of like a meet and greet. So you get to know like the people, in your town who are doing these munches, because sometimes there's different groups that do different munches. And then from a munch, you might get invited to go to a dungeon. Excuse me. And so with the munches, you get to know people. You might get an education around something. I remember I went to a munch and they talked about like pussy torture, and I was like, oh my God, I'm fascinated. Let me do that.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right,
I have pictures of the woman that's like,
I'm sure she is.
But anyway, these are like, these are ways of sort of getting in to see not only what a dungeon looks like, but getting to know the players, people who are there to educate or get to know, So I definitely suggest that. I definitely suggest going to like conferences, like kink conferences, like I really enjoy Frolicon. My conference, Sex Down South, has a dungeon. But there's different kink conferences. Dark Odyssey is another kink company that has events around the country. So there's different.
So do people sign NDAs when they go to these things, or is it like an unspoken rule that people understand that there's discretion and this is between us and?
Yeah, so it really just depends. Like if there's photographers there, so for instance, like at Dark Odyssey, there might be photographers. So you would wear a wristband to either you want your picture taken or you don't want your picture taken.
Got it.
So there's photographers that that keep the discretion that way.
Yeah, because I can imagine that being that it's sex, there's all kinds of people from all kinds of walks of life. Mm-hmm. This is a very unifying experience because it's about something else.
Right.
So there might be affluent people. There might be people with certain positions in life, and I can understand how that's not necessarily something they want others to know about. So I was always curious, like, is it just a common understanding that people know, keep your lips sealed, or is it literally like legit, like, hey guys? There's this legal issues here, and no one should know of these things, you know?
Yeah, I think it's very much well respected in the community because kink is about consent, is about enthusiastic consent. Everything is consent based. I think there's just a real respect around people's identities, what they do, and that's why many people go by different names. You know, so you just probably don't know what their real name is because they're, you know, I don't know, Miss Kitty or whatever, you know, they might be a name that, you know, that's not associated with their name. So, but yeah.
Do people walk around like wearing masks and like things like that? You know, like in the movies that you see people with the weird masks and stuff.
No.
Okay.
People, unless they're like a pup or, you know, unless that's their thing, like their kink. So unless they have like a puppy mask or a horse mask or something like that, but other than that, no.
Because I always think the horse mask is what that's like my go-to, just because I've seen that on TV. Like, it's always a person with a horse mask.
A little horse player, I know.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. So, but most people don't go around wearing masks.
Okay.
When's the next sex conference here in Miami? Or kink conference, whatever.
That's a great question. That's a great question. So, you know, we just had sex on the beach, which was amazing.
It was fun. It was awesome.
It was fun. I hope that, you know, Tia, my business partner, wants to do it next year. So I'm hoping that we will come back and do it again. But I don't know of any kink conferences here. Oh, you know, I wouldn't say it's a kink conference. It's more of like a porn conference, Exotica. I think that just passed.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's a really great. Oh, well, not here in Miami, but in St. Pete, there's FetCon, Fetish Con. So that is in St. Pete, and that is huge.
St. Pete?
Mm-hmm. St. Petersburg is north.
Mm-hmm. And so that's huge. That's a hotel takeover.
Wow.
So yeah, FetCon. I don't know if it's passed already though again, but I feel like that's probably the closest one that I know of.
And where can like men who want to up their game, you know, come and learn? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it really just depends on what you want to learn, right? So if it's like if you want to learn at a kink spot, I definitely suggest there's a dungeon here. I know you don't want us to name names.
Well,
I'm sure she's okay with it.
Yeah, if it's not personal, then whatever.
There's the South Florida, I think, dungeon rental on Instagram, who it's ran by Ebony Mistress Mona. She is that's a public dungeon. So if you wanted to go learn more about kink, I would definitely say go there. If you want to learn just in general about like, this is a really hard question because there's not a lot of educators. I know there's some educators here, but I don't hear about a lot of educators actually holding events or doing things here.
For men.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me how...
For anybody.
Right.
How that's the thing here. How it's not a thing here. Because it's like, the pitch is the easiest pitch. Hey,
right.
Do you want more orgasms?
Right.
Do you want an orgasm? Do you want women to just fawn over you while you give them mind-blowing orgasms?
Do you want to learn how to properly have sex?
Yeah. Come, you know, like... Because it's like everything you learn in porn is not exactly...
No, first of all, no, porn is entertainment, not education. So, and a lot of people who come to me are like, well, I've seen this in porn. I'm like, but that wasn't real, right? And I know because my friends are porn stars and they're like, squirting? Psh, I just put a bunch of water in my vagina and then I just squirt it out with my muscles, you know? Like that is squirting for, you know? And so understanding like it's entertainment and it's not real. A lot of it's not real. I mean, there is some really great like feminist porn and maybe like I feel like queer made porn is really great as far as like accuracy, but And then there's the Make Love Not Porn website that also has like real people doing real stuff. But like entertainment porn, like stuff you probably see like on all those porn sites are usually kind of fake.
Because it's a production, it's directed.
It is a production, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm always so interested with how people who are porn stars, how they still find pleasure having sex with their partners. Like, it's such an interesting thing. I would love to just sit down and understand that, because it's like, this is your job, this is your task, and like you're probably having sex for hours sometimes, depending on the situation. Like, you must be spent, like you must not desire to have sex. I feel like that's a challenging relationship. Maybe I don't know better. I don't know.
I don't know. I think they have sex differently. I just think they just don't have the kind of sex that they do maybe in the porn, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I have friends who are porn stars who actually live here in Florida, not in Miami, but up north. And when they've done a demo, like a live demo in front, it was pretty regular. I don't know, it wasn't like super porn starry. It was just like regular, almost kind of missionary kind of sex,
You guys would just sit in a group and watch them have sex?
Yeah, so it was a class, and it was sort of like the class was about like how to make a porn, and I was like, we need like female POV, and so like she was laying down and like he was penetrating her. So I had like the video camera basically like next to her head, and it was sort of like a female POV. It was sort of like how to make a porn kind of thing. Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine that being a popular genre. Who wants to see the men?
Maybe a woman. Look at that selfish. She's thinking about what you don't want to see. Exactly.
It's not even attractive to a woman anyway, because it's like, a woman being nude is like, a Ferrari.
You don't think
a man being nude is like a fucking Jeep Wrangler?
That's not true. Well, I like Jeep Wranglers. Don't throw shade. But no, that is not true.
Right.
That is not true.
Okay.
And you shouldn't think that, and you should walk into a room feeling sexy, because women like that.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, absolutely. No.
I know my market, No. Not everybody likes Jeep Wranglers.
Anyway. You're right, 100%. But this, of course, women like to see their men with no shirts on.
Yeah.
Even if your body isn't perfect, because women like that. They like to see your body. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Women like to see their man doing tasks around the house and not wearing much clothing, just like men do. Women are people.
I know, right? We're human.
Absolutely. It's a little eye candy in the house, of course.
We want a female POV,
Change that light bulb, baby.
Yeah. You'd be surprised.
Okay.
You'd be surprised.
That gets it. All right, Marla. Well, it's been great having you.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I had a great time. I wish I would have brought some props and things, but maybe next time.
What would help out maybe if you have like graphics that we can use, that you can send over, that we can like on some of the little anatomy conversations that we had. I think that would help out.
Absolutely. And we should do something. This is a good place to do something.
I agree.
I'm all like, this is a perfect
Maybe
place.
not the sex on the table in front of us.
No.
I'm sure that
just
would
a
be
class.
allowed.
Just a class.
I live here, so
Just a class, like a small little intimate class. I think
love
this
that
is a
idea.
really great place.
It's a great space. I agree.
Yeah, it really is. Like I'm surprised that these things aren't more common, especially down here in Miami.
Right.
Yeah,
we should do something together.
I mean, like I'm serious, like because it's funny to me, like a lot of men learn about seduction, right, in the pickup artist community.
Right.
I admittedly went through that phase, but I did learn. Right, I did learn certain things. I learned more to shut the fuck up and let her talk. If she's talking more, that's a good thing. But while it did help me in a lot of ways, also caused harm. With the way I viewed women.
Yeah.
And I feel like if these things could be taught in a way that, I can just take the good things, right? Because it's like, yeah, it made me kind of like an asshole towards women. But in another way, I felt like almost sympathetic towards women because it's like, wow, women aren't really getting a good experience in dating. So I decided to like at one point become that guy where it's like, okay, I'm gonna give you a clear experience, and they like the experience, Nice. But everything else, fuck boy. Let's get real, I'm a fuck boy, you know what I'm saying? Right? But a lot of men don't know.
Right.
Right? And I think these things, you help the men out, the women will be happier, it will be happier society.
Right, exactly.
Right? Happier Miami. Maybe traffic will people will use turn signals.
Is that all it takes?
Maybe. Like, hey, he's getting late. You know what? I'm going to put that turn signal on. Good morning. Good morning. Click, click. Oh, okay. You got some morning sex, didn't you? Okay.
Okay.
Who knows? So I think that's definitely a market that needs to be explored.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it.
All right, awesome. Well, maybe next time, maybe we can you can introduce us to sex workers or anything.
Yeah, here in Miami. Ooh, yeah. Well, there's Mistress Mona. She's great.
We're trying to get the word out.
Yeah.
And let people know about these things.
Yeah.
Necessary.
Absolutely, absolutely. And she's a character. So.
Miss Simona,
Mistress Mona.
Okay.
That sounds cool.
All right. Well, pleasure. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for having me. I would love to get on again.
All right.